Do people die when they are killed? That's legitimately going to be a point of concern for this video. Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai here. I'm really excited for this video, as it's quite a bit special for the channel. Inspired by Dead Meat's kill count, I want to ask and discover the answer to a single question. What is the deadliest Holy Grail War? I've selected 3 specific Holy Grail Wars, which we'll go through and count up the casualties. So here's the catch. Of the 5 Holy Grail Wars of Fate Stay Night, only 2 are actually available to us. The 4th Grail War of Fate Zero, and the 5th from Stay Night, which by itself is technically 3 wars because of the story's 3 routes. Beyond that, we also have a very solid view of the Great Holy Grail War from Fate Apocrypha. All in all, that's actually 5 separate occurrences to look at, so this will be a lot of work. Unlike the Kill Count series, I won't be summarizing the entirety of the wars, as that'd take forever. Instead, I'll be zipping from one kill to the next, while occasionally stopping to deliberate some more complicated kills. There are 2 rules going into this. The first deals with what actually counts as a kill. What about heroic spirits? Aren't they already dead? Yes, but the unique circumstances of a Grail War allow servants the chance to effectively live a second life. If today's menu for the Emiya family has taught us anything, it's that these second lives have value outside of just duking it out in the war, so being deprived of that will definitely count as a kill. Oddly enough, this means that certain characters will die multiple times, and I'm not just referring to Kuhulin. Carnival Phantasm doesn't count. A servant, from the moment of their summoning to the time they disappear, counts as a single life, regardless of whether they turn altar. Who else counts? Animals? What about Medusa's Bellerophon, homunculi, or other familiars? For our purposes, we're not counting any animals or phantasmal beasts, only humanoid beings with sentience. This means golems and dragon-tooth warriors don't count, but homunculi sure do. Lastly, there are some servants who involve other humans by nature of their legends. If someone like Hundred-Faced Hassan is able to manifest its various personalities as individual entities, each of them count, because those variants are able to exist in the modern era. Sadly, what we can't count are the soldiers in Iskandar's Ionian Hetairoi. Sure, they're humanoid and sentient for the duration of his reality marble, but they are unable to live outside of it. It doesn't really make a difference whether he disengages the reality marble, or it gets wiped out by Enuma Elish. Told you this was gonna get hella complicated, but also fun. The second rule is concerning the time frame of the wars. Technically speaking, we have to ask when a war starts and ends. Before any particular war officially starts, mages put in all sorts of preparatory work to try and ensure their success. Both the Yiga de Millennia and the Einsburns create hundreds of homunculi as part of their Grail-bound ambitions. Those all count toward whichever war they were intended to assist with. Any lasting effects caused by a given Grail War will also count, such as the Great Fire of Fuyuki. Dealing with that's gonna be a mess. As a result, I'm actually going to be splitting this video into 3 parts, with the final counts being tallied in the 3rd. With that out of the way, let's start with this video's case, the Great Holy Grail War of Trifas. Technically speaking, this war begins after Darnik Preston Yiga de Millennia steals the Greater Grail from the Germans. Any casualties incurred during its theft aren't being counted. Thus, the first casualties are actually the homunculi made by Gord to serve as mana batteries for the servants, as well as household attendants and foot soldiers. These guys are a very special case, and I debated it myself whether to include them. Here's the thing, they were all created with the explicit intention of being killed off during the war. As such, they biologically prioritized immediate adulthood in exchange for a limited lifespan of just a few months apiece. Basically, due to the circumstances of the war, they were made to die. The only homunculi to survive this fate are those that Sieg liberates from the Yiga de Millennia, and Gord later repairs out of guilt. For the sake of this video, I dug through the entire light novel, scanning every sentence containing the words homunculus or homunculi, and was only able to get one figure stating the front lines contained over 100. Not very useful. We'll have to do our own estimations. 'Tis a necessary evil. In general though, I think it's safe to say that every homunculi we see in tubes or on the front lines gets killed, assuming that there are more forces beyond what we can actually witness. Although it's edited out for the prologue, we see the big battle between Yiga de Millennia's forces and the Red Faction's servants. From this first shot alone, I count approximately 57 homunculus soldiers who, as I said before, will likely all die either in battle or due to their tiny lifespan. Another shot has 5 more, then another 5 or so, 12 more as this chick is running, 4 more including these spellcasters. We see them die first, but we know they're all screwed. Going back to the start of this war, the Clock Tower sent 50 elite mages to try and claim the Greater Grail, only one of whom manages to survive. The rest are impaled by Vlad III. Next, we get some shots of the homunculi in tubes. After counting them, and inferring based on their arrangement, I confirm at least 40. Each row has about 5 tubes, and I saw 8 rows. Unless they give me a wider shot, this is as large as I can go for now. Moving on to episode 2, we get to see Jack the Ripper's dead master. After buying some tantalizing clothes for Mordred, Shishigo and his servant get attacked by a squad of golems and homunculi. There's a front row of 6 homunculi, with another 4 heading above the rooftops. The first 3 are shot by Kyrie's weird finger bullets, and another 3 are poisoned by a heart grenade. While we only see 6 of the 10 actually die, it's safe to assume they all got killed. Episode 3 has more homunculi batteries. We still don't see a bigger view of the room, but we do see a pile of at least 9 rejects. Episode 4 is rather tame, but we do see 6 injured homunculi who presumably fought the rampaging Spartacus. They won't last long. Our very first servant kill is Siegfried, when he sacrifices his own life to save Sieg. In episode 5, while everyone is off fighting the war, Jack the Lully is busy killing people for the mana needed to maintain herself. The anime skips this, but the light novel clarifies that before heading to Trifas, Jack kills and feasts on the hearts of a company full of Japanese loan sharks, before moving on to Bucharest, where they kill 15 more victims, until finally reaching Trifas. Reading the passage from the light novel, there were 9 distinct cries of help in the loan office, so I'll go with that. In episode 6, Astolfo's master, since she can't kill her own servant, takes her anger at his betrayal out on a passing homunculus. Press F for the poor victim. Speaking of victims, Jack is seen eating another heart in episode 7. We could assume it's one of the 15 previous victims, just being kept in the fridge for later. Or we can assume that Jack ate all of those and killed another. Let's go with that one. Here's the juicy part, the battle on the plains. We saw a handful of soldiers in the prologue, but the anime provides us a nifty overhead shot we can use to get a larger number. The homunculus formation consists of 3 blocks, each with 13 rows of 24 soldiers, making for a collective 936 homunculi. This would go off screen a bit, but the shot is on this weird Dutch angle, so we have to assume they extend past the frame. Episode 8 is where most of the fighting happens. There are some shots from the prologue which I've skipped, but Atalante unleashes Phoebus Catastrophe, which clearly wipes out at least 14 homunculi. 12 more get run over by Achilles' chariot. A cutie gets sent airborne. Another group of 5 try to jump him and get diced. Episode 9 shows Sieg saving a ton of homunculi, but I see no reason to adjust the count, since I've been conservative about my estimates thus far. Nah, if anyone's killing this episode, it's Mordred and her sharp abs. Woo! In episode 10, Jack starts farming some homunculi for herself. A wide shot confirms 13 dead. For all intents and purposes, Sieg dies in battle, but is quickly revived when Fran sacrifices herself with Blasted Tree, in a failed attempt to kill Mordred. In honor of Shiro Emiya, if anyone dies and resurrects, that can count as multiple kills. In a similarly epic explosion, Spartacus blows up, but doesn't visibly kill anyone aside from himself. When the Hanging Gardens of Babylon begin vacuuming up the Greater Grail, some poor homunculi are whisked away. The first to kick the bucket is Darnik, kinda, when he's gobbled up by Vlad. I know they combine and all, but it's more fun to split it up. Dracula's rampage begins with tearing apart a sacrificial homunculus. He gobbles another. Those two turn vampire and gobble two more of their friends. And hilariously, another two. There's a final girl left standing, but we never see her alive again. The vampiric tyranny ends when Amakusa Shiro exercises what remains of Vlad. Episode 13 kicks off with a great kill, when Mordred decides to relieve Selenik of her head. Very satisfying. After forming a contract with Astolfo, Sieg tries to save a homunculus buried in the rubble. Unfortunately, he has to comfort her in her last moments. Technically speaking, while the homunculi ask Gord for their independence, we see a deeper shot of the tube rooms, revealing at least a 9th row of 5. I'm intentionally not going to count them, since we clearly see a handful of homunculi who were rescued from the tubes. Instead, episode 14 has the naive Rocher get absorbed into Avisebron's ultimate golem, Keter Malkuth. He's not quite dead yet. I will be counting the homunculi he absorbs during his rampage, though. Kairon shoots Avisebron in the face, killing him and letting the golem run wild. We can finally count Rocher when Keter Malkuth is defeated by a badass joint strike from Sieg and Mordred. For the first time, we go an entire episode kill-free. Hooray! It's a short-lived respite, since episode 16 begins with Jack the Ripper tormenting another Magus. He stood no chance. He ain't the only one either. In a strategy meeting, Fiore reveals a newspaper claiming Jax killed dozens of people. Logic dictates that the smallest number of people dozens can refer to is 24, so that's the number I'm choosing. Now, Cowlus here looks like he's gonna die, but I'm pretty sure he's just busting a nut to Astolfo's casual wear.
Hey, is he gonna be okay?
Instead, when Jack goes after Fiore, we see one of 2 homunculi die from fog poisoning. Jack's last stand is a bit confusing. The fog begins to poison the townspeople, but Jean saves them and sends them to their homes where it's safe. Jack tosses a kid's unconscious body at Jean, but it's safe to say she didn't kill the boy. The next to die then is Reika Rikudo, as she gets hit in the heart by Atalante's arrow. In episode 18, when Jack is hit by another arrow, she unleashes a reality marble of the Whitechapel district in London. Inside it, we see the various children that comprise Jack. These kiddos are about the same as the Ionian Hetairoi. They aren't able to exist independently from Jack outside the marble, so Jack is the only one to die when Jean purifies her. Miraculously, nobody dies until episode 21, when Achilles barely manages to kill Kairon in their total bro-down. The next to go are Achilles and Atalante in episode 22, who suffer a mutual kill of sorts. As sad as it is, it's also kinda beautiful. After that, Sieg defeats Karna, with Astolfo's help, of course. In episode 23, as much as I hate to admit it, Kairi and Mordred go down first, even though Semiramis isn't long for the world. Now, people have debated whether Mordred actually dies from her wounds, or if she just disappears after Kairi's death. Either way, she's deprived of that second life. Episode 24 gets pretty crazy. While taunting Jean, Shakespeare actually manages to conjure a fully conscious Gilles de Rais. I think it's safe to assume that so long as he's kept supplied with mana, he can keep on living, even though he's probably weaker than a normal servant. Thus, when he sacrifices himself to help Jeanne, I'll count it. Jeanne then pieces out, using La Pucelle in a final effort to destroy the Greater Grail. This kills her, much to Sieg's and our dismay. In the final episode, both Semiramis and Amakusa Shiro hang out after losing their respective bouts. They both die as the Hanging Gardens crumble around them, but not until after a smoochy smooch. In a delusional euphoria, Shakespeare decides to yeet himself from the Hanging Gardens and die midair. Thankfully, there are no long-lasting casualties of the war, and Astolfo actually manages to live independent of his master, who be chillin' in the reverse side with Jeanne. Damn, I love Apocrypha. And there we have it. The total kill count for Fate Apocrypha is 1,265 dead humans, servants, and homunculi. Truly, the biggest contributor is the massive army of homunculi made just to die in the war. For this video, we have 2 more questions to answer. What were the best and worst kills? My personal favorite is when Mordred decapitates Selenik. It's unexpected yet brutal. The worst kill has got to be when a Visebron dies with a headshot. Normally that would be cool, but not when a servant dies so easily, even for a caster. Make sure you're subscribed to OtakuDaiKun for the next 2 parts of this series, where I'll be counting up the casualties from the 4th and 5th Holy Grail Wars. Place your bets in the comments if you think either of those 2 can top Apocrypha's 1200. Do you agree with my count? What are your best and worst kills? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.